Chinese Immigration by Trevor McCoy, Kevin Burman, Eric Pinsker, and myself, Cody Clegg. Today I'm going to be talking about the early and pre-stages of Chinese American immigration. A historian in 1965 said that the Chinese in America had been patronized, welcomed, lynched, despised, excluded, liked, admired, but rarely understood or accepted. Now, this statement really rings true. In the early stages of Chinese immigration, Americans welcomed Chinese and their cultural influence. However, as time progressed and more immigrants entered the country, the anti-Chinese sentiment began to spread. In 1850, John W. Geary, the mayor of San Francisco, actually welcomed Chinese and their families with open arms into America. In the 1830s and 1840s, Chinese immigration was characterized by a trickle. 2, maybe 3 Chinese immigrants would come from a trade ship from the Atlantic and seek jobs in America. They would typically be actors, sailors, or tradesmen themselves. One such immigrant was Young Wing. He came on a ship and was meant to be trained as a missionary, then sent back to China to spread the information he had found. However, during his time in America, he found that he really liked it. In 1854, he actually graduated from Yale, and his fellow graduates said that they really appreciated his time in America and his cultural influence. After he graduated from Yale, he ended up receiving a citizenship status, and this really didn't require much work. He really didn't have any problems with it. However, in the next several years, his fellow Chinese would begin to have lots of problems with this, as anti-Chinese legislations were passed constantly. Now, there was a civil war in China going on, and some historians estimate that up to 13 million people were killed. So it was up to the men of Chinese families to come to America, earn money, go back to their families, and help them. So many Chinese men began coming to America, and most of them were wed before they left. That way, not only would they have to come back for their families, but also for their wives and perhaps their children. In addition to this, there was spiritual law, which denoted that they had to come back to their homeland to be buried near their ancestors so that their predecessors could actually take care of them after they died in the afterlife. So then began the gold rush. It's said that Chun Ming was the first Chinese immigrant to hear of gold in Sutter's Mill. He soon wrote a letter home speaking of the 7 cities of gold. This was a Chinese legend where in a foreign land from China there were 7 cities full of gold, and any man who found it would be rich for life. Now, as people heard this, they wanted to become Gold Mountain heroes, and so many Chinese began flooding into America seeking money to help their families. And so began the gold rush. There was no law to speak of in California at the time, but it was the vast opportunity that made many Chinese seek out America as their next home.